Hi, good day. Today I'm going to demonstrate to you how client PCs obtain IP address from the server, and also demonstrate to you how to install and configure DHCP on Windows 2008 server. First of all, when a client normally starts up, it sends a discovery packet, a broadcast packet on the network looking for all the DHCP servers, right? So the DHCP server receiving this packet sends back an offer to the client using a unicast. The packet contains the available IP addresses that the DHCP server can offer, right? So the client server now sends back a request to the DHCP, the client PC, sorry, sends back a request to the DHCP server requesting that IP address that has been sent in the offer packet. The acknowledgement is also a unicast packet sent by the DHCP server to the client computer, acknowledging the assignment of the offered IP address for a specific lease time. Talking about lease time, there are two basic pool, words that you might need to know in this exercise. That is DHCP address pool. The DHCP address pool is a pool of addresses or a number of addresses that can be assigned to a client machine. Once these addresses are assigned to a client machine, they are removed from the pool. And the DHCP lease time. The lease time is the time that um, the DHCP IP address would be valid for. And after that, the client computer would have to resend um, to, to renew the IP address. So now we are going to the server 2008. We are going to install the DHCP server. So some of the prerequisites for installing a DHCP server is that it must have a DNS server, and it must be in a domain environment. So let's go. We go to Start, go to Server Manager. Right? Click on Roles. And here we'd have to wait for it to finish collecting the data. So we have already installed Active Directory Domain Services, DNS, and File Services. So now we are going to install DHCP. So you click on Add Roles, click Next, select the option for DHCP server, click Next. Here is just an introduction where you can see an overview of the DHCP server, what it does, and so on. Click Next. One thing that must be done is to configure the network adapter before installing DHCP, or else you would not be able to change it after you have installed DHCP. So that has already been configured. Click Next. So the parent domain here is hemorrhage.com, and the preferred DNS server is 192.168.2.1. Validate. So it's valid. Select next. So we are not working at wins on this server. So wins is not required for application on this network. Select that. Click next. At this point, you can add the scope, or you can click next, install the DHCP server, and come back and install the scope. So I will install a scope after. So click next. Disable DHCP version 6. Click next. We're using the current credentials that has logged in right now, and that is the administrator login. Click next and click install. So when DHCP server is finished install, we'll open up DHCP server and configure the addresses. Okay, now that DHCP server has been installed, I'll click close. Right, so DHCP is installed. So now we'll open DHCP. So we go to Start, Administrative Tools, DHCP. Right, so here we can add our scope. Right click on IP version 4, select New Scope, select Next, give it a name. Click Next. Here we give it the range of IP addresses. So we'll go with 192.168.2.1, which is the first IP, and the last IP, which is 192.168.2.254. That is the last IP address in the range. Click Next. We can add exclusions here. That is like if you have servers and also printers that need a static IP address, so you can directly connect to those devices. You type in the range here so that you can reserve a specific amount of IP addresses for those type installations. So I'll just reserve 192.168.2.1 to 192.168.2.99. So all the IP addresses between the range 1 to 99 will not be assigned in the DHCP pool. Click Add, click Next, and here we can assign how long the lease time or the duration of the lease will be. So in this case here it is 8 days. So I would reduce that to a few minutes, say 3 minutes. Click Next. You want to configure these options now. Click Yes and click Next. This section here is if you have routers, you can add those IP addresses directly and it will be stored here. So click Next. Here domain information and so on can be inputted. So we'll just leave this blank for now. Click next. So we don't need wins on the network, so we can click next. And yes, you want to activate the scope now. And click finish. Right, and the scope is finished. Right, the scope is finished. So I'll click on a plus on the scope, and you'd see address pool. Right, so the address pool will be from 1 to 254, and the IP addresses from 1 to 99 will not be assigned by DHCP. Addresses from 100 to 254 will only be assigned to DHCP. Here you will see all the machines when it connects. You'll see all the machines that is using addresses from the DHCP address pool. Reservations, you can reserve an IP address for a specific device here, and I will do that when we have connected the machines, and this IP address, the reservation IP address, will only be assigned to that specific device once it is reserved, because it can be assigned to that device to the MAC by using the MAC address. So when I'm doing that, I will explain it further. And now it's just to configure the PCs. So now we'll go and configure the IP addresses, but first we have to make sure that the address has to be dynamically obtained or automatically obtained. So we go to right click, select Open Network and Sharing Center, change adapter settings, right click on the adapter, select Properties, select IP version 4 Properties, right, and all devices must be able to you must select obtain an IP address automatically and obtain DNS server address automatically, and click OK and click close. Now let's check to see IP address. So we open command prompt, IP config to check the IP address, and that's not the IP address in the pool. So we'll do IP config /release, press enter, and it will release the IP address that it has, and it will make the device. In fact, the device will not be able to communicate on the network without the IP address. So in this case, it does not have an IP address when you run that command. Right, so now we'll try to renew the IP address. Renew. And we'll have to do this a few times. So we release again. Right, so you see it has obtained the IP address. And remember the excluded IP range was from 1 to 99. So the first available IP address in the pool starts at 100. So you see the IP address here is 192.168.2.100. So that's the first available IP address. And the domain here is hemorrhage.com. And we do that same thing for all devices connecting to a network. Unless you need a specific IP address where you will configure that statically. So let's go to the other PCs and configure our IP address, and we'll go back to the server. So we'll make sure that the IP address says that for all machines in this testing, we'll make sure that it's able to obtain an IP address automatically, and then we'll do the IP config / release and renew until the IP address is obtained. And we do that for all the PCs in this demo. Right, now we go to a Vista machine, and as you can see, we did the same process. Did an IP config, then we do a release, IP config to view the present IP address, and we do the release, renew, release again, renew, and then we got, no, sorry, and then we did another release and renew, and then the IP address came up. Right, and that was the same process, and we did that also for WinXP. As you can see, IP address is 102. Right, so we did an IP config to view the present IP address that the device has. Do a release, renew, and it obtained this IP address 2.102. Right. So now we'll go and try to do no, we'll have to go back to the server. Sorry, server. Right. So we go to IP address leases, and you see the three devices: Windows XP PC, Windows Vista, Windows XP, and you'd also see the lease expiration time. So these leases are going to be expired in just a few minutes, about say 2 minutes, and then I'll show you the lease will be renewed automatically. The same, once the lease is expired, same process goes on again, and most of the time the same IP address is given back to the device. Right, so I'll do a refresh here. Right, so you see lease has been renewed, and that happens every time it has to reassign an IP address. All IP address has a lease time. Some may be for a few minutes. It depends on if you're doing testing, or it may be as much as a few days. So now we'll go and do the reservations. Right, so now we'll do the reservations. Let's reserve an IP address for a specific device. We click on reservations. I click new reservation. So the IP address of the Windows XP machine is 192.168.2.102. So I'll put in 102. There's the IP address here. That 102 is the IP address that is dynamically being assigned. So I'll specifically assign an IP address of 192.168, say .10 to the Windows XP machine. So now we can give it a name, say XP, say print server. Right. Now we have to get the MAC address. So I'll type in get MAC /s Windows XP and the option to copy to the clipboard. Right, press enter. Right, so now I'll go to Notepad and paste it. So this is the MAC address here. So we'll copy this MAC address. Paste it here. And you can add in a description if you want. Click add. And click close. So you can see the IP address has been reserved and has put a description as print server. So now we're going to see what IP address will be assigned to this device. Right, so now we go to the server, we go to address leases, and you'd see the IP address has been assigned to the print server. A reservation, it says inactive. So let's see if we can release and renew the IP address and see what comes up. So IP config, right? So before the IP address was 192.168.2.102, and after a few minutes, when the dynamic IP address has been expired, it was given the 192.168.2.10 address. So as you can see, that address will be reserved, and we can check and see if this address will change in the reservations. Oh, sorry, in the address leases. So I'll just do a refresh. Right, so from inactive, it went to active, and it says reserve on the lease expiration. So it does not have an expiry time so that IP address can expire. So that was it. That was all. I thank you for viewing, and I hope to make other interesting videos for you. Thank you.